Well, that was a good report about uh, actually taking satisfaction in knowing that you're practicing correctly, even if the benefits are coming at a slower rate than what you're wanting,
Yeah,
like
so
drowsiness. Go ahead.
yeah, so even just now in my reporting, once I finished it, I started to feel um, some aversion, like, oh, like, yeah, I wish it was more. But then very habitually, nonchalantly, I'm able to notice it and just, shoo it away and yeah, just be okay with things as they are.
Making that shift of the thoughts when you're paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
that keeping the thoughts now on what's happening now, as opposed to the way that the normal mind operates, is thinking about things that have already happened or planning on things to happen. Or another way of looking at it is to take the time off of it, leave it just a thought in time and space, which in that regard means now we can see that it's actually even more delusional
Mm-hmm.
than calling it past, just random thoughts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, sometimes ideas or thoughts will come that are useful or valuable, so that they can be put into um, use in
Mm-hmm.
some occasion. An example of that would be a joke. That a joke will come.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so he said, "All right, I'll tell out next time a student calls." But basically, in that, even in that regard, we're generally um, looking at the here now. So basically, what we're saying at this point is that the waking up process is actually coming out of delusion or
Mm-hmm.
sleep, dreaming. And in fact, we even have a word for it called daydreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And that the Buddha used the term burning by day and sleeping by night, in the sense of that the hindrance of the mind, whether they're dream states that hinder the human from getting deep sleep, or it's the thoughts that we have throughout the day, hinders us from being able to get a task done or to be present or any of that kind of stuff, right? So now we're beginning to learn to control the mind so that you can point it in the direction that you can choose,
Mm-hmm.
based upon the value scale of, is this wholesome thought or not.
Mm-hmm.
This is a major point to come to. Congratulations. That's an important thing. You've been practicing well.
Okay, great.
And uh, you're also gaining the confidence then, so that you will begin to have the kind of thought is, yes, I can do this.
Yeah, I've been telling myself that at different moments during my sits.
Yes. And that's confidence building.
Yeah.
Gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling inside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that warm, fuzzy feeling that we're just mentioning, is that's what the Buddha refers to as piti.
Mm-hmm.
You feel really good. You feel successful. Okay. Now, you've been practicing that in what you're calling sits, which I assume would be secluded posture, um, practicing from whatever tradition that you learned it from.
Yeah, I usually sit in my chair or on a meditation bench.
Okay. Is that when you say a meditation bench, you're talking about a Zen stool, the wooden contraption that keeps
Yeah.
the Westerners from actually sitting in the Zen posture?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. The Zen posture, by the way, is the same posture as with the stool, except you just take the stool out.
Yes. Yeah.
and sit on your heel.
That's too painful for me, so I don't do it.
I was about to say, unless you've got a good reason for it,
Yeah.
that's not the easiest posture for a Westerner.
Yeah.
But in Japan, actually here in Thailand, they practice that on a regular basis anyway. They don't use so much furniture.
Yeah.
Okay. So um, basically, that posture in Zen is one such that you can very quickly shift the body to so that you can get a foot on the floor. Once you do that, then you use the muscles in the other leg as well as that one to pull yourself up very quickly. Going
Mm.
from that posture into a full standing posture can be done within a second
Hmm.
with training.
Hmm.
And that's exactly the same issue that happens when the guy who's sitting there with the sword in its sheath can also be, by the time he's standing, he's also got the sword out, swinging it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they
Okay.
call it hero's pose.
Okay. So you can't do that with the stool. At best, you'll probably fall over because you tripped on it.
Yeah. 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 Luckily, I'm not fighting off any samurai.
Well, uh, the 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 practice of mental control was already done in Japan before Buddhism,
Mm.
but Buddhism came in the centuries when the shogunate was becoming established, which meant that the warring tribes and the warlords were no longer keeping samurai, so they
Hmm.
became ruined. It was that time then when Buddhism came, and that was when a major shift from martial arts into movements of the body, and that's something a lot of people don't think of in Zen. But if you look about it with the concept of Zen and the art of archery and how they actually train with each slight little movement of grabbing the arrow and notching it
Mm.
and holding the bow in a certain way so that the right hand is always very close to the eye and so that the bow is then pushed out and down immediately let go because unlike in English with the longbow with the fingers, that's not a
Hmm.
very accurate way to release an arrow.
Mm.
It tends to go off to the right. Okay, so the Japanese use the thumb and forefinger, which is not nearly as strong, which
Hmm.
means you cannot take a long time to aim. You've got to let that arrow fly as soon as that bow comes down. The coming of down of the bow is the actual aiming,
Hmm.
and all of it has to do with breathing.
Hmm.
Okay. And so a lot of Westerners, when they see Zen and talk about it as just sitting or Zazen, they don't understand how important these postures are.
Mm.
That in fact, you could also say that where Theravada has everything conceptualized with all of the details and everything down exactly and precisely so, which is just like the Westerners like it. Zen comes along with a direct cut. Let's slice through the verbiage, get right down to the nuts,
Hmm.
right down to the nothing. Okay, just sitting. Um, but really, where we're going with this is that there is more to do than just sitting,
Hmm.
and that if there was nothing more to do than just sitting, then that would bring about some of the things that we have probably you've probably heard of, and I know, for instance, being in some particular temples in Burma, where these same small group of dudes are just there all the time. One of them has managed to be able to sleep while he's sitting up, so he is there, except for going to the toilet and going for breakfast. He's there. He's just sitting, and that reminds us of the story also of Bodhidharma sitting in a cave, facing the wall for 9 years. Okay, I'm assuming that that's not your intention.
No, I'd rather make it as enjoyable as possible.
Well, you do not know the levels of joy these guys have got. That's in fact what the Buddha calls that, is a pleasant abiding.
Uh,
That's what's called a pleasant abiding, is spending much of the time, uh, mostly in fourth jhana,
uh-huh.
where there's really nothing there. Okay, that's when you really get into the nothing, is when you've gotten the mind so completely shut down that you're not even using the perception.
Well, I'd be cool with learning how to do that as well.
Well, we'll work with it, but it's only a cool way of spending time. It's not a relief from suffering. It's not dukkha, dukkha, nirodha. That what we're doing now is dukkha, dukkha, nirodha, but now we have to expand it from the sitting into taking it throughout the day. And this is actually a different kind of focus, because, see, if you gain some skill in Sati just by sitting, then it will be useful for you throughout the day. But that's not really the right way to develop Sati throughout the day. The way to develop throughout Sati throughout the day is throughout the day, not while sitting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Is this making sense to you?
yeah.
Okay, this is an important point, because now is the time for you to make a shift from uh, paying more attention to your sitting practice into spending more time taking the qualities of this sitting practice with you throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually the benefit of apps that are on cell phones. These
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness, or Sam Harris and all kinds of different groups have cell phones. And in fact, a couple of years ago, I was using also the cell phone with students. But uh, after a complaint and pointing out that many people are already far too attached to that cell phone, let's find other ways of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, uh, there were things that happened at Wat Suan Mo that monks are actually quite playful with each other, and that playfulness often helps wake each other up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm doing that with Kitty now, and wow, it's hard to get into the same room with her without her noticing it now. So she's really waking up. Before, it was so easy just to walk up and take her cell phone away from her, but she's getting woken up. She's mindful of her surroundings more and more. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
since you don't have someone there to help you do this, um, we can say that we can find other ways.
Okay.
But one of the things that Achan Po would do like that would be, he would walk up behind me and do a one word, a one liner. He was really actually quite sophisticated at getting that close to where he could just come up behind me and whisper in my ear. And one of the things that he would whisper would be tatasa. Now, tatata actually is the Pali word. He's saying, be here now, which
Mm-hmm.
is a very, very kind whispered word of, wake up! I'm behind you and you don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
He would also, in fact, the way that he got started was is that he would come to the kuti and stand in the yard for me to figure out that he was there and greet him,
Mm.
that he wouldn't call. He would just show up and stand there.
Mm.
And this showed a kind of a new obligation, a new waking up process, to be very aware of your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
And so it did get to the point that he couldn't sneak up on me, that I knew where I kept general track of wherever he was, if he was in the vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
But this brings about almost a new kind of a sense But an example of that would be, in fact, I knew something about this when I was a teenager because I had one of my friends who would from time to time, and this was really important for the gang that I ran with, and that was, you know, the cop before he knows you.
Mm-hmm.
You see the cop. If you're out on the bikes or out on the car or whatever, if there's a cop car behind a billboard, you got to know that that cop is behind that billboard before he knows that you're in a car driving in his direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a different kind of more spacious awareness, but it also has to go along with that same training of the further down the road you can see, the faster you can go.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't see very far, then you got to take the time to get to that, only that short place.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can see way down the road, a mile or two, so you just come over a crest and now you can see the road 4 or 5 miles off in the distance out in the desert, for instance, then you know, is there a cop out there or not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the thing that we're beginning to want to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Is this Sati more and more available so that we're out here in the real world, literally living in our sensory awareness rather than in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, most people, they live in the mind, in concepts rather than in experience. So, one of the things that I have found that works very well, but it is actually a training because people will often forget.
Okay.
Okay. And that is this: we're going to use the chair as
Okay.
your object of meditation.
Okay.
The chair you're in is going to be your object of meditation, whichever chair it is, even if it's the bucket seat of your Puttmobile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And here's how we're going to use that. First is that
Sorry,
general,
sorry. Any chair or just this chair that
whichever
I'm?
one you're either about to get in or about to get out of.
Okay, so any chair.
Well, not every chair, but
Any
yes,
chair that I'm about to sit in or get up
get
from.
out of.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And um, let's go for it like this: that generally, when we're sitting down, is more comfortable than getting up
Mm-hmm.
or being up, standing on our feet. There's
Mm-hmm.
some jobs require standing on the feet behind the counter or whatever, and it's really hard. So actually, we derive comfort by sitting down, whether we're in Asia sitting on the floor or whether we're in a chair. In any case,
Mm.
now here's a question for you. If
Okay.
you're in a chair, why get up? And this is a question that you need to start asking yourself over and over and over again when you get up.
Okay.
All right. And here's how we're going to do that. Can you see the poetic justice in this? This is marvelous, okay? Whenever you stand up, you normally stand up going. So we go from a sitting posture to a walking posture.
Yeah.
And we never take in the standing posture.
Okay.
So what we're going to start practicing doing is going from the sitting posture to the standing posture and maintain that standing posture for a second or two,
Okay.
and then we walk.
Okay.
So actually what we're doing now is we're actually disrupting body behavior, and it's also a process of slowing down, that this is actually part of the satipatthana practice.
Mm-hmm.
When they talk about reaching and grasping and moving and this kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
this is actually an excellent training tool. And the first thing now is that you got up. Why? Why get up? The answer is we want something.
Right.
We're not satisfied. The chair is no longer satisfying. That's why we get up, because we want something. Okay. So now we're going to start inspecting that wanting.
Yeah.
And the way that we start inspecting that wanting, so here we are, caught right in the middle of Paticca Samuppada, by the way. Okay. And looking at that point between the liking that happened in the chair that got you out of the chair wanting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or in some cases, getting out of the chair because there's a tack you just sit on, or a mosquito bite, or an itch, or something you can't get to without getting out of the chair. But in that case,
Mm-hmm.
uh, getting out of a chair is because we're trying to get away from something, or we don't like it. We like it not. But we're still trying to control. So, by interrupting that process, we're going to now put that intermediate step of from sitting to standing.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're standing, you're going to ask the question, why did I get up out of my comfortable chair? What is it that I want? Was it
Mm-hmm.
a drink of water, a cup of coffee, going to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
going home, uh, uh, a conference with the boss, to take another look at that pretty secretary on the other side of the building? Whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, we
Mm-hmm.
start making note of what our intentions are.
Mm-hmm.
And in this regard, I'm using the word intention
Mm-hmm.
as grasping, or upadana,
Okay.
wanting to grasp, okay, wanting to get.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so this is a practice. Every time that you get out of the chair, you're going to get out of it merely standing up.
Okay.
And that physical thing then actually is what you're going to do from from time to time, right from the very beginning, is that you'll get up and take a few steps, and then you'll say, wait a minute, I was going to get up and stand, and here I am already walking.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's at the point then when you stop walking at where
Mm-hmm.
you are. You don't necessarily have to go back to the chair,
Mm-hmm.
but you stop and you stand, and you review, where am I going? What do I want?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Now, generally, what will happen is that when we come home, we want to go, for instance, to answer the phone or go to the toilet or whatever, and we'll set the car keys down absent-mindedly,
Mm-hmm.
looking at what our hands are doing. But this practice now will help waken that up. But this is actually something that's directly in the Satipatthana Sutta that
Mm-hmm.
helps wake us up, and that is start watching your hands and
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing with your hands a lot. Make
Mm-hmm.
the hands a an opportunity for sati, to remember to watch the hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the ways to watch the hands is by keeping the hands away from the face, so that when you do bring your hands to the face, you know it. You're
Mm-hmm.
awake to it. It's not. I'm not saying that it's wrong to touch the face. I'm saying that when you do, that's a wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
Not to do it absent-mindedly, but to do it knowingly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This also, the term is grasping and reaching. So one of the ways that we can do grasping, uh, I like it like this. I'm not going too weird, I hope. But in the horror movies, when Dracula or Nosferatu is just about to get someone, when
Mm-hmm.
they're reaching out, they don't just go like that. No, they widen the hand
Mm-hmm.
as the okay. So this is one of the ways that you can begin to do that, is to start slowing your gestures down, widen your hands,
Okay.
get familiar with each individual finger, and
Mm-hmm.
then with it like this as an example, that when you come, you
Uh-huh.
notice what's the first thing that you touch, and then you notice the holding of it,
Uh-huh.
and then you notice the withdrawal. Similarly, when you're setting something that you're already holding down,
Mm-hmm.
when you set it down, when you
Mm-hmm.
start to release, you notice the feelings. So that what's the last thing that you touch? In this case,
Mm-hmm.
it's that finger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when I bring it up, you see that the hands are all flared.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. This is this is knowledge. You have to know what you're doing to do it like that.
All
Okay.
right.
So this is now the practice that we have. Another quality then about setting something down is to set it down and continue the lingering of the holding of it before
Okay.
you let it go.
Mm-hmm.
This will bring a lot of awareness to the hands, the posture, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Okay. And this is to be done for the process of waking up the mind.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's go to the biggie. The biggie in the chair is
Right.
not the standing up, it's the sitting down.
Okay.
Okay. Normally, when we think of sitting down, is something on the order of taking a load off
Uh-huh.
or relaxing, or here, have a seat, relax. Okay. But in fact, in formal settings, until the let us say the resident of the room or office invites the visitor to sit down, things are still tense. But when
Mm-hmm.
the sitting down occurs, now the edge of formality can come off and a more relaxed atmosphere can
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we're going to start looking at that quality as the chair now is your um, anchor to actually do that. This is whenever you sit down, it's got to be a full on anapanasati moment.
Okay.
You full on taking a deep breath, letting it out, having a big sigh, enjoying the fact that you have let a load off of your feet and you're also letting a load off your mind. Okay, with a big grin. Wow, what is so nice to park this butt.
Okay.
Along with this will then come the third noble truth of, wow, this is nice. This is no longer dissatisfying.
Okay.
Okay. Until you got to the chair thing, you were on your way. You were still dissatisfied. But once you can park it, now is the time to really park
Okay.
and to really go into that third state. Bhikkhu Buddhadasa would call this a little nibbana moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then you become aware of your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
This may take 30 seconds or even a minute if you can stretch it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that laptop can wait
Okay.
for 30 seconds. Every time you sit down, even if you had laptop or email or something on your mind as you're sitting down, no, we're going to stop all of that. We're going to use that chair. Now, how many times a day do you sit down in that chair? Any chair?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
30, 40 times maybe, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Especially during this quarantine. Yeah.
okay, so that means we've got something between 60 and 80 times a day that we're going to practice Anapanasati.
Right.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
All
To
right.
really get into it, but even with grasping and reaching with the hands, even more than that.
Right.
But and there will be times when you can do it all. But then there'll come times when you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's just a moment of mindlessness or no sati. But the sati will return,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you start practicing more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And some students will say that the one that's the most difficult to do eventually is the getting out of the chair. That it'll take you a week or more to get that down.
Okay.
Why? Because when we get out of a chair, the mind's already burning. It wants something, you know.
uh,
And so we're going to bring this new kind of practice into play.
mm-hmm.
so that we begin to practice Anapanasati throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
Okay,
getting out of the chair, getting into the chair, and then grasping and letting go of objects.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
So like setting things down, like the cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
When you set that turkey down, you set it down with enough mindfulness so that you know exactly where it is. And if
Mm-hmm.
it's not exactly where it was before, you know that something has interfered, has moved it.
Mm-hmm.
But now we will set the cell phone or the car keys down, and then we remember that they're someplace else, that I put them down once before, but this time I don't remember where I put them down. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to bring that kind of mindlessness to a close
Mm-hmm.
by being more mindful of what the hands are doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's many ways to do that. In fact, within Buddhism, there is the thing called mudra. Have you ever heard of the word mudra?
Yeah, it's the way that the hands are positioned.
Mm-hmm. Guess what? The word mu is the word for hand, both
Mm-hmm.
in Pali and in Thai.
Okay.
Okay. So these are the hand postures, and there's many of them that can be practiced, but
Mm-hmm.
you can practice the actual postures in your sitting. But now we're beginning to say the part of the reason for these practices is to wake up to what the hands are doing, wake up to the tactile sensation.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're sitting in meditation, one of the ways of doing it is by putting all the fingertips together so that you go,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's 10 sensations all at once. That's quite a mindful is to touch them all.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Another one is just touching the thumb.
Right.
When you touch the thumbs, which thumb feels the other one first? How do you know that? Okay, this is
Not sure.
all right. So now let's do it this way. Look at what we're doing here. Now the thumbs are not touching.
Right.
With your eyes closed, as you bring them together, how close can you get them without touching to where you can feel that you're about to touch or that you're that close? In other words, we're beginning here to expand our tactile sensation to
Mm-hmm.
just into not just the skin itself, but the air just above the skin.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so, beginning to work with the hands in this tactilian way, we begin to feel them. We begin to get really in touch with them. And by doing so, this is actually part of Anapanasati stage 3 of experiencing the body
Okay.
because you do so much with your hands. Your hands are, in fact, the primary part of your body, your hands and your face.
Mm.
The rest of the body, that is almost on automatic pilot completely. But now we're
Mm-hmm.
going to interrupt that with standing rather than getting out of a chair walking. We're going to get out of the chair and stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're beginning to interrupt a lot of old patterns, slowing the hands down, spreading the fingers out,
Mm-hmm.
getting a sense of tactile touch,
Mm-hmm.
playing with this. Now that you're at home on vacation 19,
Right.
we have a lot of time to start to play with this.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, in fact, what's really going on is I'm giving you a new toy or two to play with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, so for getting out of the chair, I ask myself, why am I getting out of the chair
Hmm.
before
Where
I
am I
get out
going?
of before I get out of the chair, or once I'm
Well,
standing?
uh, with this method, you naturally will start to do it before you get out of the chair. But
Oh,
the
okay.
point is that you're doing this while you're standing up. That
Okay.
in fact you might want to stand up and give yourself a whole list of items that you hadn't gotten really clear yet. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I'm going to go say hi to that pretty girl down at the end of the hall, and I'm going to go get a newspaper, and I'm going to go do all of those things. And
Okay.
then after we get that list, now we have clear intention rather than modified intention.
Okay.
This is wakeful. Wakey, wakey. Why
Okay.
am I getting up out of my comfortable chair?
Okay.
Maybe it's because it's not comfortable anymore, but that's a valid reason to get out of it.
Uh-huh. All right.
Okay. So this is the way that we practice anapanasati without being on the cushion.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that we're doing it the way that we do is the issue of seclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that when we're sitting in the meditation hall, the whole point is at least to pretend that you're in seclusion, even though the hall's got 30 other students in it, each one of them pretending that they're in seclusion. All right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but the real seclusion is that that cave that Bodhidharma went into. All
Mm-hmm.
right, that's seclusion. This is the hut toward often the far reaches of the Wat. That's the kind of seclusion that's good, and that right now you have an opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what we're talking about is the very best benefit of your sitting meditation being in seclusion. You've got all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
Got it all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
now is the time to practice anapanasati all the time because we only now have that other kind of issue of seclusion.
Mm-hmm.
First, it's secluded from the world. Now we're getting secluded from the hindrances.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, after we learn to do that by sitting, now we're going to start doing that throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that this practice that you're doing now while you're in seclusion, uh, as opposed to isolation, you're in seclusion, which means that now you're developing skills full time that can be used full time once uh, the no touch policies are changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now is a good time to build that up. This is a really, really good time to practice.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay. Um, Not using too much magic, but occasionally magic has an enormous value if we use it wisely. And so I would like to leave you then with the magic of the poetic justice department of the big giant comma machine in the sky.
Okay.
The Justice Department, the poetic Justice Department, has allowed Mother Earth to take a breather.
Yeah.
Right? By taking the breath away from the humans. Now,
Uh,
is that poetic justice or what?
yeah.
Okay.
Was that the joke you came up with earlier?
Yeah, that's the joke that I came up with earlier. So, you knowing that now Mother Earth and the Poetic Justice Department is actually doing everybody a favor by making everybody become isolated is an enormous benefit.
Mm-hmm.
The air is getting cleaned out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only people, well, let's put it this way: global warming is taking a turn for the better that only the people who are activists in global warming would hate. Okay, they want to be the ones who are actively fixing global warming, to where in fact the planet Earth is doing that for herself. She doesn't need your help right now. Thank you very much. Sit down and shut up, and enjoy your weeks or two off.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the whole point. Then is that what a marvelous time this is for you to practice. And so today I'm giving you all the gifts of all of these new toys to play with, your chair and your hands primarily.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can spend your day in mindfulness. This will
Mm-hmm.
also help those thoughts to stay in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All throughout the day, you're just dealing with what's happening right now, and who gives a flying rip about what happens after the epidemic is under control enough that they let things out again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We'll worry
Mm-hmm.
about that, or we won't worry about it, but we'll deal with it when the time comes. Right now, we're going to have a party,
Yeah. Okay. Great.
mental party.
Great. All right. Well, yeah. I imagine this will be a worthwhile challenge that I am going to take on. So.
But you can do it, and you know you can.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a challenge, but I think I can definitely do it.
Well, part of the challenge is giving yourself a break.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind, start again.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
hassle yourself because you've forgotten it or how hard it is.
Yeah.
That's the loser's mentality. Whenever you think of it, hot
Yeah.
diggity dog, I at least thought of it this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. All right, great.
Hands, where have you been all day?
Yeah. Well, no, even I already started when I was grabbing my pen and the notebook, a few minutes ago. So, um, yeah, I'll keep at it.
All right, excellent.
All right.
Okay, well, give me a call in the next few days and we'll see how this is going.
All right. All right.
All right,
All right. Sounds good. All right. Bye bye.
bye bye. See you.
Bye bye.